If there's anything pop culture has taught society, it's that representation matters. From comic book heroes to real life heroes, having minority communities represented is important.
That's why Emmanuel Ezirim is breathing life back into traditional Black and African tales. And he joins us now to talk about this powerful messaging. Emmanuel, sir, thank you so much for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about Jet Black and the Ebony Knights.
Thank you for having me, first of all.
Gentlemen.
And good morning. Even though this is up north, we don't say this name, the name of this state that we're in. Jet Black and the Ebony Knights is the epic story of the original black princess called Jet Black, and it is a highlight of some of our own African authentic culture that I wanted to share with the rest of the world.
Wow, that's great. That's great. So how long did this journey take you from putting the story together to actually getting it on paper and published?
Man, that's a very good question. You know, it took me about 3.5 years to put the whole thing together. I just started writing, and interestingly, funny enough, when I was writing, one of my sons kept reading along with me. His name's Nnamdi, he's a big man now. But he kept asking me every time that I would skip a couple of days, you go, Dad, when you going to go to the internet and get the rest of that story? Because he saw me writing it on the computer, so he thought I was going and getting a part of the story. Because I would write a little bit, and then I'll read that part to him. I'll write whatever I get during that time, because when you write, sometimes it flows, sometimes it doesn't. But, you know, you start with the end of your story, because that's really what you're getting at. Absolutely. And then in between, you just fill it up with stuff, and you write and you rewrite, you write and you rewrite. So that's why it took that long. And I'm a pharmacist, so there's not that much free time. And then raising kids too.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. So it took that much time, but it was great. It was a great journey for me.
It's so important to see representation matters so much, especially when it comes to cultural approaches like a wonderful book like Jet Black and the Ebony Knights. What motivated you to want to share your story, share your history, share your culture with the world?
Thank you. I like that question. You know, growing up, for me as a child, I read a lot of books, both by African authors and by also non-African authors, and children's books for the other part of the world. They were usually happily ever after story. The stories that I read growing up that were by the African authors, they write, you can take all of them in my head and sum it up with one title, the one that is the most popular of all of them. It's called Things Fall Apart. The main characters in those books somehow starts life where it's great, and slowly challenges in life just keep beating them down, sure. And they never overcome it. The stories that we had in folk tales that were orally passed to us, most of them, we had some that were always educational about life's lessons, and those do have good endings, but none of them were documented. So you didn't read them in school. The ones that you read in school were things that didn't have a hopeful ending. And I always believe that the best is yet to come. And I want that best that will come, I want everybody to share in it. So we'll get to that. I'm sure you have a few more questions. But I was inspired by a happily ever after ending for my people. I was also inspired by sharing a story that has African and Black and brown people that live in the fairy tale world, because we do live there. I know Rapunzel lives there. I know Cinderella lives there. I know Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs live there. And that one was the one that really had the most impact on me. It's like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Okay, I want this one. Who are these seven dwarfs? What are they doing? What is their purpose? Why are they so jet black? When I was in college, I used to work at the Black Studies Library, and we had a section where we had the Jet magazine and we had the Ebony magazine. So, so I added a little bit of that too. So that's why my son was so, thinking that I'm getting stuff in there. So because I have to draw from things that
you pull from the world around you.
Yes,
that's so important.
I was going to ask too if your son kind of got final editorial approval on this? Like when you finally were done, what was the reaction to it?
If you my kids love it. If you look at the back of that thing, you see my family there.
Okay.
You see the big guy on the right-hand side?
Yep.
That's Josiah. He's an preseason All-American in football right now.
Wow.
So, yes, he approved. He approved this. But he was little when I was writing
when
this
he started.
book. And he was so amazed that Dad could do something like that. He didn't know it was me until it was finished. He thought I was still getting it from
Did he believe you when you told him that it was yours?
Now they do.
Now, what has been the reception from readers? Has anyone reached out to you to just thank you for sharing these stories?
A lot of people have. And this book, I completed it originally in 2013 and then got distracted with other stuff. But if you read the foreword, you see Dr. Anthony Kamen wrote the foreword on that book. And we've had other reviews. And by the way, if you read the book, if you pick up the book, write a review so you can add your 20 cents in, not 2 cents.
Oh, well, that's great. So has this
wow.
I know. Has this inspired you? Do we have more books in the works? What else do we want to do next?
That angle with this book, I want the readers to participate in this. I wanted to take people on a journey to a state of mind that is the happily ever after. I wanted to take people, especially young kids, because they're uninhibited in their imagination, in the limits of imagination. I don't want them. I want people. The best author, the best ending for this book has yet to be written. Mm-hmm. The way that I wanted that style. It's not it's not the normal kind of cliffhanger kind of ending. I don't want to give it away, so you gotta read it. And then we're gonna draw from all the kinds of stuff people are thinking of at the end for me to do a sequel. But I don't even know if my sequel will be the right one. It might be somebody that's reading the book. Yeah, it might be somebody else's. But I'll leave it open to the readers to enjoy and contribute.
The illustrations in this book are fantastic.
Thank you.
How'd you find the artist to
contribute those? Artist is from Ewing's Publishing that did it, but I got to play director for the artwork. I pieced some things together, what I believe in my head it should look like, and I can grab images and feed, and then they piece it together. But it is wonderful. And talking about the art piece there, everybody's heard of the saying, don't judge a book by the cover, right? Well, sometimes you need to make your cover look really, really good. So somebody can look at the book. Because you see, that's what these fellas saw right now. They saw the cover. So you
that's
gotta
a
read
wonderful cover.
No,
absolutely wonderful cover. Now, where could folks go to purchase a copy of this?
You can get it online. Amazon.com has it. Barnes & Noble has it. But anywhere books are sold, it's out there in public space, and you get it, and it's easy to find.
Who would you suggest read this book? Who's the target audience for it?
All kids from 6 to 99.
All right.
All children from
a wide net.
A wide net. It's a good book as an adult to read to your children, for sure. Okay, it's wholesome. It's bedtime story. So an adult has to read it to a child. But kids who are in middle school and earlier part of high school, through high school, teachers can use that book because the ending actually gives them a really good assignment to
write their own story.
Write their own story and put it down on paper, and expand their imagination as to exploring authorship. Wow.
So you mentioned, I mean, obviously this kind of fills a void for maybe what's lacking out there.
Correct.
But are there other materials in pop culture today that either influence this or that you get behind in terms of other support for spreading the history and the tradition of the culture?
Thank you for asking that question. So many, they say, I think it was President J.F. Kennedy that coined this phrase or notion that you can take a kid out of America, but you cannot take the America out of the child. I grew up in a city in Nigeria called Aba. When I was growing up, Aba was the most industrious city. And let me give a shout out to the new governor of that state, who is doing a really good job right now, because that's one thing we don't get too often. It's Governor Oti. He's doing a really good job. But Aba, where I grew up, we were so proud of our culture. And I came here at age 13. And everything that I missed when I was growing up that I didn't have here in the U.S., I started to recreate. I created a cultural performing arts group called Odenibo. Odenibo in my language is Ode, the sounds, Nibo, sounds of the Igbos. Ode Nibo means the the music of the Igbos. Ode Nibo means to write in Igbo. So all of those things, the arts and material culture of the Igbos, Ode Nibo. And then with that also, I also have helped create the Nigerian Association of Pharmacists and Pharmaceutical Scientists in the Americas. Wow. That's our US and Canada. And we are involved in building from the healthcare aspect of my life. All these things, what they have in common is me, Emmanuel Ezirim, E-Dog in the house. But I am also coming in next month, like in 4 weeks, as the president of NAPSA. So, and we're doing a lot of things. Culturally, I cannot leave those things that matter to me to someone else to come do it. So it doesn't even matter how well I can do it, as long as I get it started. Because there are so many people who have the talent and just need something to prompt them to start. I am the one who can self-start, and then other people
help
can
other
join.
People do
so
it.
That part of it, I use it to try to build my culture in any way that I can.
Wow, good for you. Well, the book is Jet Black and the Ebony Knights, and Emmanuel E-Doggy Ezirim is our guest and our author. Thank you so much for being here. We'll share the information about this on our website as well.
Thank you guys so much. It was great talking to you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.